Hey guys, welcome to Read Between the Lines
with Naomi and Haley.
So today we're going to be talking about the book Why Men Love Bitches
by Sherry Argov.
So I think first thing that we should talk about is the name of the book for bitches, and it's not used in the derogatory sense of the word of like a female dog, but talking about women like reclaiming the independence in a relationship and in the dating scene.
Okay, so let's talk about what a bitch actually is to the book.
Okay, so I think just directly out of the book, I think attraction principle number 8, which says the biggest variable between a bitch and a woman who is too nice is fear. The bitch shows him she's not afraid to be without him. And I think that really sums up a little bit of like what the book is for what a bitch is. And it's the woman that's independent and that has standards, and she's setting those boundaries. And so I think this idea of, oh, my boyfriend is my husband, like this guy I'm going out with, my situationship is my husband, like that's my hubby, and we're not holding up these principles anymore, and we're becoming the doormat.
Yeah. Well, 5, if you start out dependent, it turns him off. But if it's something he can't have, it becomes more of a challenge for him to get it. So you don't want to show him all your cards on the first date and be like super dependent on him, because then he's gonna be like, yo, this girl's crazy.
But society has a standard of like a Netflix and chill is a good first date.
No.
What? Like what?
Where have the standards gone?
No, exactly. And then people wonder why, oh, where are my flowers? Maybe because you took Netflix and chill as the first date. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. If a guy asks for your number and he's like, do you want to come over? Like,
taking you seriously.
You don't even know him. That tells you right there what he sees you as.
He's gonna push the boundaries and see how far he can get with you.
Exactly.
So if he asks you to come over at 12 p.m., he's like, you up? And you come over, standards gone. He's gonna think you're gonna do anything.
About knowing your standards yourself, having those set in place and following them. To say, I don't want a man over past, let's say 10 p.m. Stick to that.
Yeah.
When it hits 10 p.m., be like, hey, you gotta go.
And then that goes into not canceling your plans if he like.
Yes. So the book, how like you shouldn't see them all the time, but also it's okay to say no sometimes. When I was dating and stuff, I was like, okay, well, if he's asking me to hang out, like I should try to hang out with him, you know, like making my life kind of like surrounded around him. And I was like, you know, like if he asks me to hang out, like I can move these assignments to later. But even the book says if you had plans to paint your toenails,
don't cancel.
Like, don't cancel your plans.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't need to put his wants above like your plans.
And also the idea of no in the book. No, I have other things. Like, no, I have other priorities.
I'm keeping my independence. I'm keeping my separate life from you, but I also want you in my life. But I almost need you to fit in my life. You're not going to become my life.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to add to your life. They don't complete you. You're already your own whole person.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will search for like finding this idea of like my person completes me. And that's such a toxic mindset I think that we have in society now, is like, oh, we're searching for that person to complete us. When it's no, like we should be completed as a whole. And the idea of a relationship should be two complete people coming together for a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. But there are a lot of points in the book that I disagree with.
Me too.
And
it promotes like really bad communication styles.
I agree. I think the book is really good for the dating scene.
Yes.
In the idea of first few dates, you know, there's no label, getting to know each other, I think it's really good for. But when it comes to when it's talking about relationships and marriages, that's where I disagree. Kind of like, what does it say? I think it talks about how instead of communicating that, it just says to like back up and go like.
It's one of the principles says that men respond to like silence over like words. Your girlfriend is not going to be a mind reader, and you can't just like give them the silent treatment every time they hurt your feelings.
Yeah. Example of the book that it really just upset me, and I noted it down when I read it, was when it talks about this married couple, and she asked her husband like, okay, can we get like a maid service to help, because this house is too big, whatever. And he didn't want to spend the money for the maid service. So I think she ended up asking him, she was like, oh, okay, like I won't do it. But then she asked him for like some more money or something, or I think she pulled some more money, and she ended up getting a maid service.
And she didn't tell
him. And he was like, see, like you're fine without a maid service, but this whole time the maid service is coming.
Yeah.
And she never tells him. and it just like talks about like doing things.
But it's just there's no open communication.
But yeah, that should have been
Between
conversation.
They think the answer always is to not communicate and like deal with the stuff later. But that's just going to cause more problems and make it worse in the end.
Yeah, I think a lot of the book is kind of passive aggressive.
Yes.
It promotes passive aggressive behavior, and I think society does too nowadays. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm upset that he didn't answer. He did this. I'm going to post a song on my Instagram notes. What? That doesn't make any sense. Like, first of all, yeah, okay, maybe he might pick up. Like, people are not dumb. They know how, like, social media works. But that also just shows a level of immaturity.
Yeah, I'm like, just talk. Just communicate. It's not that hard.
Like, if he's not answering you,
there's a reason.
Move on.
Yeah.
He's not interested. And I feel like women nowadays, when they're so infatuated and so interested in a man, they are not getting the concept, he could just not like you. Yeah. Well, he's missing out. Let me move on.
Yeah, because if he's treating you like this at the very beginning, who wants to know how he's going to treat you if you actually start dating?
Yes.
There's no point to pursue it at this point.
Exactly. And people think like, oh, the idea I can fix him.
No.
What you start at,
that's your best.
That's your best. Where you're starting at, you can expect lower.
Yeah.
So you also have to think of yourself, would I marry this person how they are right now? With all their flaws, with all their habits, addictions, whatever, like how they treat me, am I okay with being treated for the rest of my life? And I feel like a lot of people's answer is no.
Yeah.
But they don't want to admit that. And they're scared of losing the security of somebody. Yeah. And it's like, if you show all your cards, first of all, there's no mystery.
Yeah. And if you tell him on the first date you're looking for a relationship, that's too serious for a man. He's going to get scared. Yeah.
He's either going to get scared and run away, or he's going to know that and use that to lead you on and manipulate you.
Because men love their freedom. They really do. And the second they're like, that their freedom gets taken away a little bit, they're going to retaliate. They're going to leave you because they're like, I need my free time, man. Like,
I think like the example of like men going out with their friends, right? You'll see a lot of men in relationships or like whatever, and it's like their girl blowing up their phone, right? And sure, like maybe they're still with them, but the book talks about how when a man is so like in love, gonna be the one being like texting you, checking up with you at the bar. It's not gonna be like oh, my girl's blowing up my phone again. It's gonna be like, he's gonna be wanting, hey, what are you up to? Like he's gonna care naturally.
Yes.
If you don't make him feel trapped in a cage.
Because if you're treating him like he's in a cage, he's gonna think you're like his mother and be like, oh, well, I have to tell her where I'm going. Like,
yeah, like nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. But if he starts like texting you out of his own like
his own drive,
his like, that's because he cares about you and like he is pursuing you.
Yeah, men have to do things on their own.
Yeah.
So we have our friend Noah here, and he's gonna give us more of like a male perspective on the book. So like overall, what were your thoughts like on the book and like the ideas and concepts in it?
Yeah, so I think that the book, I mean, the title as it is, it's pretty vulgar, Why Men Love Bitches. So I think as I read through it, a certain level of empowerment that I think that I respect, but I did think it's too black and white, and it's like not like, I think a lot of the concepts in it are pretty circumstantial, like going through all the principles and stuff, that it's pretty like, it can create a toxic environment like mentally for a woman, especially in a relationship. Not so much on the aspects of like getting into one, but staying in one, create where their worth lies and create like this toxicity that I don't think is super healthy.
I would agree. I think it's better for like the dating scene, but when it comes to like relationships, those really depend on where you're at and each of the person's like by itself, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So then from the book, what makes a girl attractive to you? Like, is it these traits, or is it like how they act, or is it how they look, or is it all the above?
I mean, for me, I think there's a lot of stuff in the book that I agree with, but I think there's more so a lot that I don't agree with. For me, I mean, physicality is something that draws me, and like, but what I feel like really keeps me is first and foremost like her confidence. Like, she has to know her worth. She can't like really necessarily fall too easily for me. It has to kind of be like a chase almost.
Yeah.
Like to keep me engaged. And I think the things that do keep me engaged is how driven she is. Like, is she spontaneous? Does she have like passions in, you know, her day-to-day life? Is she continuing those things, and is she consistent with that?
I think the book definitely touches on that for like the chase. Just because that's a big thing. And people try to say, like, oh, no, I don't want the chase. Like, that's not with me. But really, then when it gets into the relationship, like, you shouldn't have to do that chase.
Yeah,
You know, you
100%.
should have that security of a relationship that I think the book doesn't acknowledge. One of the principles that you would say, like, you disagree with the most.
So I wrote down this number. There's a few that I disagree with, but I think the most notable one, attraction principle number 39. It says men don't respond to words, they respond to no contact. And I think to a degree that can be true in the sense of like maybe like before you're in a relationship, but I think in a relationship it's absolutely the opposite and it's totally flipped. Like if you give me no contact, it's just really unhealthy and I would love to have good communication. But like obviously if we're not in a relationship, there's no committal like sense to it and we're just really getting to know each other. No contact is going to kind of make me want to reach out to you a little bit more. So it's like if you're acting on those things, then yeah, I would definitely react more to that. But if I'm in a relationship, I need that communication. And if you're going to give me no contact, then I don't want to be in it. So
I remember the book talks about not to use I feel statements, which is actually extremely contradicting to what I learn actually as an RA.
yeah.
And how during handling conflict with like residents and stuff, you have them use I feel statements. And the book says how that doesn't work on men, which I think in the beginning of a relationship, I think what women mess up is like they'll tell guys how they feel, like, like you don't talk to me enough, like and it's just you haven't established that relationship and there's not that protection and like sanctuary to have those conversations. And those are conversations to have in a relationship rather than when you're first like going out and talking to someone.
I 100% agree.
I don't think it works.
Really?
No.
Okay, for like going out with someone?
I mean, I'll say it's 50-50 because like you could go no contact and because you're mad at them and you're like, okay, well, they need to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be like, oh, why isn't she talking to me? Because apparently did something. But if a guy doesn't care, he's going to be like, oh, on to the next. Like I'm going to go find someone that's actually going to talk to me.
I think that's true. I think if the guy cares enough, then, or I think if the guy doesn't care, like he'll just move on to the next.
Yeah.
Guys can sense where it's like, oh, I feel like something's off. But instead of me telling them like, you know, like I'm upset that you're not answering or something, you just taking that step back there, like, shoot, like, what am I doing? Like, let me try to figure this out. And I think that's where the book is right a little bit for it. But I don't think in a relationship, like with my boyfriend, like going no contact would not be good for our relationship. It would lead to a breakup because that's just not healthy.
Yeah.
Rather than like doing no contact.
Yeah.
Because when you get in a relationship, you need to communicate because people are not mind readers. But like if you're not dating and they actually care about you, then they'll reach out and be like, hey, what's wrong? But if it's your boyfriend, just be like, hey, that hurt my feelings.
I think if you have common interests in each other and it's like you're both aware of that, no contact doesn't work necessarily. But I think, and this is why we may disagree, if, say, a woman that I'm wanting to pursue, like we're pretty good. We went on a few dates, whatever. We have like an idea of kind of where we stand. We're pretty much on the same page. And she kind of backs off a little bit, like, but I know that I care for her and I want to kind of see where this is going to go, but we're not entirely there yet. That is going to want to make me like kind of reflect on, okay, did I do something wrong? Is there something that is going on behind the scenes that I could potentially find out? So I do want to kind of take that step a little bit more forward to figure that out and, you know, kind of be that person for her if that's what she's wanting. And then if it's not, then, you know, that's okay and we can talk it out. But I think that area of no contact is somewhat healthy as long as it's not like your intention to, you know, draw them in and, you know, kind of play games. I think that can be a waste of time.
Like
you
you saw a girl, you think she's attractive. What are your next steps?
Yeah, actually, this just happened one day. After church, I went up to her and I was like, hey, like, I'm Noah. Like, what's your name? So I asked her name. You know, I complimented her, told her she's really beautiful. I like, you know, she was wearing some cool boots, told her that her boots were really cool. Asked her where she got them, everything, kind of sparking up a conversation. And then that just kind of led into like a little bit of conversing. And then afterwards, I was like, you know, I would really love to get to know you more. And I asked her out for coffee. I think in my eyes, that could be something that's not entirely too serious, but it's like a one-on-one thing that we can see that going somewhere. You know, we just get to know each other, have that idea of whether or not like I could really see myself pursuing this person, do you have the qualities that I look for in a woman? And so then that could eventually lead to like a for real like first date, you know, like that's something where it's like almost like testing the waters kind of thing. I think that's a great way to do it.
Right. Okay, my question is, because I think this is where a lot of girls like start to mess up. So like, let's say y'all went on that first coffee date, right? And girls will keep it calm, and then after that first date, you know, something in our head, we're like, this is love.
We're like,
You know,
they're
like,
our man. They're our
this
husband.
is our husband. So then, if after that coffee date, you know, like let's say it all goes well, like you're like, wow, like this girl's amazing. You know, like she checks all those boxes and stuff. But then after that, she starts like texting you a lot. You know, she starts like, hey, like let's FaceTime. You know, maybe she even mentions like boyfriend, girlfriend already, like after this first date. How are you going to react?
So I think it really just depends on who you ask. For me, I know that, you know, if I'm pursuing a woman, I want to set pretty strict and firm boundaries that can pace out, you know, where we're going to head relationally. I don't want the trajectory to just go straight to the point, because then there's no connection built. It's not going to be really romantic. It's almost infatuation. And so if I do want to pursue this girl, she has all the qualities. She's checked every box. Like I could really see myself pursuing her. And I'm going to set a firm boundary. Hey, like, you know, I don't want to text as often. I'm not really comfortable calling. Like, let's hang out, you know, maybe once or twice a week. Let's be intentional about the time that we spend together when we're together. And like, let's pace it out slowly and be healthy about it. That way, you know, if the possibility does come to a conclusion of us being in a relationship, we know a lot about each other. We know where we stand. We're on the same page. And then from there, then we can move on and progress a little bit faster.
Your opinion, which I know this can vary from guy to guy, but how long do you think a girl should be going out with a guy? What's the timeline? Like how
So
long?
for me, I think as I'm pursuing somebody, if those boundaries are set and we're pacing it slowly and we're very intentional about the time that we're spending together, we're getting to know each other. It's not just like wasting the day watching TV or something, which is great, but there's substance to the time that we're spending together. I think a 3-week good rule is like the first week should be fun. Second week, really kind of get a little bit deeper. And the third week, talk about where you guys want to go. And then the relationship is a whole nother story.
I think that's a good take. I think that's a good perspective. Because also, like, whenever you say 3 weeks, it's not every single day together.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people will mess that up. And that's whenever people can get rushed and they can feel, like, trapped.
Yeah.
But it's like you're seeing, like, 2 to 3 days out of that week or whatever that you're hanging out. But it's also not like, okay, like, maybe it's a day, but you're not spending the whole day together.
Spending every day together, it kind of creates this expectation, and it puts you in like a bad habit. It's a cycle. You're expecting to hang out with this person, and you're not really like getting the opportunity to learn more about them because you're getting comfortable being around them, and you don't have that time and space that you need to almost miss them or, you know, desire.
Yeah, and the book actually directly talks about leaving time for someone to miss you.
Yeah.
Like constantly all the time, like you're not going to see the value of it immediately.
Definitely.
Like that wonder and like that mystery that like brings people in.
I was just in like a talking phase, I guess, if you want to label it that, with this girl for about a week and maybe like 3 days. And it progressed really fast. We spent a lot of time together. And I'll take accountability on that. But it was very mutual on both ends. And so I think where it went wrong and kind of like was a big turnoff for me was that we were doing relationship things outside of a relationship. We were not in a relationship. There's no commitment on my end. And she ended up like having these feelings for me that were a lot more than mine were for her. And so she was a lot further ahead than I was, and we were nowhere near the same page, or nowhere near being on the same page. And it was a big turnoff for me because she expected to see me every day. She took every opportunity out of her day that she had free time to try and see me, to talk to me, to call me. And it honestly kind of became annoying because I have my own life, and I'm an individual who's very busy. I want to see her every single second of my day. And so I ended it, and I called her, and I talked to her about us not being on the same page, and there were obviously, you know, other things in the mix of that were raising red flags, but that was one of the main things that kind of turned me off to even seeing her as like a potential, you know, partner in my future. And honestly, it I think all of those things kind of like diminishes how attractive she was to me, not even physically, because it goes way beyond that. But she became a lot less attractive to me the more she like, it was almost like needy.
It's not about how beautiful you are. Like the beauty is gonna fade, And obviously, like, attraction is initial, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're acting like you don't have the confidence, you don't see your own worth,
Mhm.
a guy's not going to see it.
If you become attached to a man in a week, they're gonna be like, you have no respect for yourself.
Yeah, they're not going to care
Yes.
how beautiful you
bye.
are. They're not going to care
100%.
how beautiful you are. If you're
Yeah.
acting like
They're gonna be like, she's desperate. Like she just wants a boyfriend. Does she want me or does she want the title?
And
Yeah,
it's-
like you just get rid of your individuality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's talk rating of the book overall with the agreements, disagreements, everything.
Okay. I give it like 7 out of 10.
Okay, I was going to say like 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
Just from, I think it's a good book overall, but I don't think this should be like you follow every single line.
Yeah.
I think it's
I think you need to take it with a grain of salt.
yeah, I think you read it, you reflect. It has a few like interaction things in the book which I really like you circle,
Yeah.
you
Like little tests.
yeah, and I think you do that and you read the book, you take notes, but you
Mhm.
also take notes about what you do disagree with, and
Yeah.
then you apply what you agree with to your life.
Slay.
Yeah,